I love wines with a great story behind them. The legend is that in the 16th century, Ottoman invaders were closing in on the castles of Egri in northern Hungary. The locals got drunk on wine, and when they came down the hill, their teeth and their mouths were all stained red. Their eyes were bloodshot. It scared the Ottomans away, who went back to their commanders and said, I don't know what's happening with those locals. I think they were drinking bull's blood. Is this legend real? We don't even know. Fast forward to the 19th century, that area in the north, Egri, started producing wine named Bull's Blood. It was also produced in the south of Hungary in the region of Szekszárd. The story is in the region of Szekszárd, they like the deep color of the wine, so that's why they called it Bull's Blood. So I want to make this Hungarian red wine blend great again. The reputation of Bull's Blood suffered during the Hungarian communist period. Big wineries were pumping out quantities of sour, cheap, inexpensive Bull's Blood, especially in the UK. The most famous one that's available all around the world is the first one I ever drank, actually by Egri. I don't know if that company still exists anymore, but that wine is cheap. The label is crappy. The wine's okay for the price, but there are much better Bikavers on the market now, and they can be complex and age-worthy. Hungary is a country with a long history of wine production that doesn't have the notoriety of other wine-producing countries in Europe. In fact, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, when it came to fine wine in Europe, there was only France, the Mosel, the Rhine in Germany for Riesling, and Hungary, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, for Tokai. Tokai is the most famous wine coming out of Hungary and one of my favorite wines in the world. However, I think the wines in Hungary are just fascinating. I'm really excited about them. I used to live in the country part-time and travel often. In fact, I was actually working on a wine book before the pandemic about Hungarian wine since I was going so often. I launched a Kickstarter that failed. It was pretty public. I was pretty embarrassed. That ended my wine writing career. I said, you know what? I'm just going to focus on video. Bikavér, or Bull's Blood, is a blended wine. It can be made in Egri, where I think there's 12 to 13 permitted varieties. It can be made in Szekszárd in the south, where I think there's 18 permitted varieties. Both regions, you have to have at least 4 grapes in the blend. The wine is based on Kékfrankos, what you might commonly know as Blaufränkisch or Lemberger in Germany. Blaufränkisch is being made famous by the Austrians. However, there are more plantings of the grape in Hungary than any other country. Another key component, especially in Szekszárd in the south, is Kadarka, the spicy, lighter red wine. You can also blend in Bordeaux grapes like Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Pinot Noir, Blauburgunder, Taran. Even in the south in Szekszárd, you can put Sagrantino in it. Szekszárd in the south of Hungary is my favorite region for red wines, although Villan is the most famous. In Szekszárd, it's a hilly region. The hills run north to south. It reminds me of Burgundy in that regard, because the right, there's a great Hungarian plain. In Szekszárd, they use a little bit more Kadarka, so I feel like the wines can be a little bit spicier. They can definitely be a little bit riper. In the north, in Egri, where it's a little bit cooler, it's a semi-volcanic region. You have 3 levels of Bikavér: Classicus, Superior, and Grand Superior, which is supposed to be better wines, lower yield, aged in oak a little bit longer. Even though it's a cooler region, they can be pretty concentrated because I think producers try to push the ripeness levels. In general, I have always preferred the wines of Szekszárd to those of Egri. These wines offer tremendous value for money. When you're in Hungary, you can get fantastic Bull's Blood on the shelf for under 15 euros. However, the most expensive Bull's Blood, the most expensive Bikavér, is in Egri by St. Andrea Winery. Here today, both of these wines are $24.99 in the US. I love Bikavers because to me, they're everything that I like about a red wine. You have more red fruit flavors combined with earthy notes that remind me a little bit of Sangiovese, but then you combine that with some earthiness, some acidity like you're going to get in Beaujolais, and then some spiciness like you're going to get from wines made out of Grenache. And these wines generally are lower in alcohol. I've seen them range anywhere from 12.5% to 13.5%. Red fruit, earthy, complex, affordable. I'm ready to go. Let's taste. Ready to rock and roll, tasting out of my Spiegelau Definition Bordeaux glasses. I bought these glasses for a video about high-end luxury glasses where I compared Zalto Gabriel glass and this. If that video is out by now, I'll pin it in the comments, or just look out for it if it's not out by the time I release this. I Coravin these and had somebody mix them up for me. I wonder if I'll be able to pick out which one's Szekszárd and which one is Egri. Number 1, cherry, cherry, cherry. Lots of cherry flavors. The fruit comes through. It is earthy. That's what I really like. A little bit of smoke, a little bit of mocha. The thing about these wines is they're not overburdened with oak. It smells delicate. I think I like Bikavers and so much because it does kind of remind me of Sangiovese on the nose. A little bit different, but the red fruits really pop. Nice. Medium bodied. So again, not gonna be think whole milk, heavy cream, more like of a 2% feel. It's savory. I like about Bikavers is sometimes in these medium bodied wines, the fruit can separate. They can either be too earthy, but here the earth and the fruit come together perfectly. It's almost literally like having a dirt covered cherry, sour cherry. I know that doesn't sound good. This isn't super spicy. The tannins are fine. There's usually not a high level of tannin in these wines, which I really like. It's just an enjoyable wine to drink. Let's go on to 2 here. 2 smells a little bit more volcanic, a little bit more mineral. So maybe I'm thinking this is Egri. Mineral, smoke, cherry type flavors. Although the fruit was more pronounced in wine number 1. You get some fall leaves type flavor. Actually, sometimes Kek Frankos in Hungary, which these wines are probably predominantly Kek Frankos because that's the rules for Bikáver, but they can actually be Pinot Noir-esque in Hungary. Really, the aromas, especially the earthiness, the red fruit. Get some raspberry type notes. I much prefer the nose on 1, but 2, I like the palate a lot. It's spicy, it's really silky, creamy. I like about both these wines, there's just a touch of tannin, but really, they don't overgrip or they don't overpower your mouth. I remember one of my friends who's a Hungarian winemaker said, Hungarian reds are red wines for white wine drinkers. Let me compare the 2 again. When I retaste it, wine 1 has a little bit of spiciness, has a little more fruit quality. 2 definitely feels like a cool climate wine. The fruit isn't as concentrated. I want to let you know that I've launched channel memberships, and there are several tiers. In the Grand Reserve tier, which is the 2nd tier, I'm going to be doing a live monthly hangout tasting, and members in that tier can come on screen, share what they're drinking, share some stories. We can just geek out. Also, I'm launching a live video podcast series and some tastings with winemakers. Again, if you're in the Grand Reserve tier, you can call into the show, come up on screen like a live radio show. There's also perks for the Reserve tier, which is the 1st tier. Check it out by clicking the join button next to the subscribe button. I really appreciate the support. I think that number 1 is Sexard, a little bit warmer, more fruit quality. I think this is Egri. Now here's the thing. I prefer the flavors in wine number 1. However, I think wine number 2 is a better wine. That's just my personal opinion. Let's get going here. Wine 1. Both of these wines aren't going to get the highest scores in the world, but these are the wines I like to drink. The red fruit, the earthiness, medium-bodied red wines made by winemakers that care. Sometimes, like, more medium-bodied reds that just are generic and an afterthought. These are wines that the winemaker obviously cares about. I think this is Sexard. I'm going to give it 89 points. 89 points. I think it's delicious. Let's see here. Let's see. It is from Sexard. This is the Lajver Signum Bikavér 2019, $24.99. This is half Blaufränkisch or Kek Frankos, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Cadarca, and Cabernet Franc. These are both brought in by Credo Imports. I like what they're doing. You know, Hungarian wines, these niche wines, it's a tall task to try to sell these wines in the USA, especially if you're dedicating yourself just to doing that. So I give them a lot of respect. Fruity, medium bodied, delicious. I actually want to drink that. Number 2, more mineral, has a little bit more complexity. I think there had just a touch more length too. I think I like the fruit. If I could combine everything, these 2 wines, it would get really, really high score. I'm going to go 90 points on this. I like the minerals. If you like earthy reds with a mineral hit, I think you're going to really enjoy this. 90 points. I thought it was Egri, and it is. One of the classic producers in Egri. This is the Toth Ferenc Egri Bikáver Selection 2018. This is mostly Kek Frankos with Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, also $24.99. This isn't even their best Bikáver, but I think it's a very lovely bottle of wine. So tell me, have you ever had bull's blood before or any other Hungarian wines outside of Tokai? Do you like them? I'd love to hear. Drop it in the comments below.